minus 50 degrees, 6 months of daylight, 6 months of darkness, and totally inhospitable. If you want to get away from it all, well, the North or the South Pole is the place for you. And I can speak with some experience, having spent 2.5 years with the British Antarctic Survey, living under the ice at Halley Base. That was 2.5 years of learning to appreciate the British summer, no matter how bad it gets. Well, as everyone knows, the North and South Poles are the frozen bits at the top and bottom of the globe. The Arctic at the top has polar bears, the Antarctic at the bottom has penguins, but that's not the only difference. So let's start with a look at the Arctic. The North Pole, the Arctic, is an ocean surrounded by land, and that ocean freezes over every winter, but then some of it melts again during the summer. And this is how much ice was left at the end of the summer in 1982. This is how much was left at the end of the summer of 2007. You can see it really is shrinking away, and that's going to have a big impact on the climate across the northern hemisphere, because where you've got ice, it reflects the heat back out into space. Where you've got sea, it's much darker, it absorbs more heat, and so there's a bit of a feedback loop going on, which means that the ice could get less and less year after year. So the Arctic ice is floating on the sea. As anyone who's watched ice melt in their drink knows, when it goes, the water level doesn't rise. So flooding is not so much of an issue from melting of Arctic ice. But what could potentially be an issue is that the climate gets confused. And that's because a melting Arctic could mess with the Gulf Stream. That, of course, is the flow of warm water that comes up from the Gulf of Mexico right across the Atlantic and keeps us a little bit warmer than we otherwise would be during the winter months. But it doesn't stop at the UK. The Gulf Stream actually extends right up into the Arctic, because that's where the engine is that actually keeps the thing ticking over. The Arctic ice takes fresh water out of the surface water of the Arctic Ocean. That makes it saltier, makes it denser. It then sinks to the bottom, and that's the end of the conveyor belt, sort of going round the pulley on the end, with the water then flowing back at deep levels back down towards the South Atlantic. Now, if that slows down, of course, we might well find that the UK is going to be rather colder in the winter. Although at the moment, well, different climate models tell us different things. There is quite a bit of controversy over that. The Antarctic is a 14.5 million square kilometre sheet of ice, as big as the European landmass, and nearly 5 kilometres deep. And that's all sitting on a handful of islands. So it's the exact opposite of the Arctic. It's a landmass surrounded by sea, and because the ice is sitting on land, it's that much thicker. It's not floating in the sea, so if we do lose that mass of ice, and it's 90% of the Earth's fresh water locked up in there, then we certainly do have an issue with flooding. Mind you, that's going to be over a period of a few hundred years, but it could well add as much as 5 metres to sea levels worldwide. There's little doubt that both the polar regions are in a state of change, but then they have been for many thousands of years. The question is, with the latest change, what's the impact going to be on us?